Hello, welcome back to Fix Africa, the Land of Wealth. Today we are diving into a topic that has shaped the destinies of millions and continues to influence global dynamics. The topic here is a big one, folks: the United States and Africa. This relationship is as vast and varied as the continents themselves. Now it's a relationship that's, how shall I put this, complicated. From the early days of exploration to the modern era of diplomacy, the ties between these two regions have been anything but straightforward. On the one hand, the United States has a long history of involvement in Africa, dating back to the transatlantic slave trade. This dark chapter laid the foundation for many of the challenges we see today. Yeah, we're not off to a great start, are we? The scars of slavery are deep and still visible in many aspects of society. On the other hand, the U.S. has also provided significant aid and investment to African countries in recent decades. From healthcare initiatives to infrastructure projects, there have been efforts to foster development and growth. But, and this is a big but, the legacy of colonialism and Cold War meddling casts a long shadow. These historical events have left a complex web of political and economic challenges. We're talking about mineral extraction, proxy wars, and the backing of some pretty unsavory characters. These actions have often prioritized strategic interests over the well-being of local populations. So, we're going to delve into this complex relationship. We'll explore the multifaceted interactions that have defined U.S.-Africa relations over the centuries. We'll examine the good, the bad, and the downright ugly, shedding light on the successes and failures that have marked this journey. And hopefully, by the end, we'll have a better understanding of how we got here and where we go from here. It's a story of resilience, struggle, and hope. Buckle up, folks. It's going to be a bumpy ride, but it's a ride worth taking, as we uncover the layers of this intricate and impactful relationship. To understand the United States' role in Africa, we need to rewind the clock a bit. Let's take a journey back to the 19th century, a time of immense change and upheaval across the African continent. See, while the United States wasn't a major player in the scramble for Africa, that 19th century free-for-all where European powers carved up the continent like a birthday cake, it was still a period of significant interest and indirect involvement for the U.S. It did dabble in colonialism. Liberia, anyone? This West African nation was founded by freed American slaves in the early 1820s, with the support of the American Colonization Society. Liberia became a haven for these freed slaves, but let's just say its relationship with the indigenous population wasn't exactly a picnic. Tensions and conflicts arose as the settlers imposed their own systems and structures. Then there's the Congo, where King Leopold II of Belgium, with U.S. rubber barons cheering from the sidelines, unleashed a reign of terror that left millions dead. The exploitation of Congo's resources was brutal and devastating. The point is that even before the U.S. became a global superpower, it was already involved in Africa's exploitation. American businessmen and interests were deeply intertwined with the colonial powers. And spoiler alert, it wouldn't get any prettier from there. The legacy of these early involvements set the stage for future interactions, often marked by exploitation and conflict. Fast forward to the Cold War, a time when the US and the Soviet Union were locked in an ideological death grip. Africa, with its newly independent nations, became a battleground for their proxy wars. The US propped up dictators like Mobutu Sese Seko in Zaire, now the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Jonas Savimbi in Angola, all in the name of fighting communism. Of course, these dictators weren't exactly known for their commitment to human rights or democracy. But hey, as long as they kept the Soviets at bay, right? The result? Decades of instability, violence, and corruption that continue to plague many African countries today. Now, let's talk about everyone's favorite shiny things: minerals. Africa is a treasure trove of natural resources, from diamonds and gold to oil and coltan, a key component in your smartphone. And the US, with its insatiable appetite for, well, everything, has long been a major player in the extraction of these resources. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with mining. But when it's done with little regard for environmental regulations or the well-being of local communities, it can be devastating. We're talking about environmental degradation, human rights abuses, and conflict fueled by blood diamonds and other conflict minerals. Not exactly a glowing endorsement for ethical sourcing, is it? Echoes of exploitation, modern resource grabs. You might think, well, that was then, this is now. And sure, the Cold War is over, thank goodness. But the US's involvement in Africa's resource sector hasn't exactly disappeared. In fact, it's evolved. These days it's less about direct control and more about securing access to resources through trade deals, investment agreements, and good old-fashioned corporate influence. Think of it as colonialism with a capitalist makeover. The result? Well, it's complicated. On the one hand, foreign investment can bring jobs and economic growth, but it can also lead to exploitation, environmental damage, and a whole new set of problems. Please subscribe to our channel and share your thoughts in the comment section below. Beyond exploitation aid, investment, and development. Now before you think this is all doom and gloom, it's important to acknowledge that the US's relationship with Africa isn't just about exploitation. The US is a major provider of aid to African countries, funding healthcare initiatives, supporting democracy and governance programs, and investing in education and infrastructure. And yes, while some might argue that aid is just a band-aid solution, it does make a difference in the lives of millions of people. The US also plays a significant role in promoting trade and investment in Africa, which can contribute to economic growth and development. A new partnership towards mutual respect and benefit. So where do we go from here? Well, the first step is acknowledging the past. The US needs to come to terms with its history of exploitation and interference in Africa. Only then can we move towards a more equitable and mutually beneficial relationship. This means listening to African voices, respecting African agency, and supporting African solutions. It also means addressing the legacy of colonialism and the Cold War, tackling issues like debt relief and unfair trade practices globally. Solutions. Charting a path forward. But it's not just about fixing the past, it's about building a better future. The US can play a positive role in Africa by promoting sustainable development, supporting initiatives that prioritize environmental protection, social justice, and economic growth, investing in education and healthcare, empowering future generations and creating a healthier, more prosperous Africa, strengthening democratic institutions, promoting good governance, transparency, and the rule of law, promoting trade and investment, creating a level playing field for African businesses and fostering economic growth, addressing climate change, supporting African countries in their efforts to adapt to and mitigate the effects of climate change. Conclusion: a future of shared prosperity. The relationship between the US and Africa is complex, marked by both darkness and light. But amidst the challenges, there's hope. By learning from the past and working together, we can build a future where exploitation gives way to empowerment, and where both continents can thrive. After all, a rising tide lifts all boats, even those separated by an ocean. And who knows, maybe, just maybe, we can finally put those colonial ghosts to rest. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel, share it with your friends, and follow us on social media for more updates.